Every night, I watched a different luxury car pick her up from our compound. In Block 7, they called her a lost cause. They called her a woman of the night who had no shame. My flatmates told me to run. My friends called me stupid for staying. But I saw something they didn't. I saw the girl whose heart was broken by the one man who was supposed to protect her. They saw a woman climbing into luxury cars. I saw a woman running from a ghost. Because what they didn't understand is that some wounds are so deep, you'll do anything just to feel like you're still alive. This is our story, and it proves that what love cannot change truly does not exist. My name is Oscar.
I can never fall in love with a man. The words hung in the air like smoke. Oscar's hand stopped moving. He was supposed to be checking a document on his phone. He looked at Suzan. She sat across from him in her small business center, flipping through a magazine like she didn't know the weight of what she just said. They had been talking for over an hour. Just talking. About the newly wedded couple down the road who are still in their honeymoon. About marriage. Is it even worth it? About the kind of love that lasts and the kind that destroys. Normal conversation. Friends talking. Then this. I can never fall in love with a man. Suzan said it so casually, you would think she was talking about the weather. Oscar looked up from the document he was reading on his phone. Why would you say a thing like that? She didn't even think about it. My father, because of how he treated my mom. Just like that. No emotion, no hesitation. She closed the magazine. For a second, something flickered in her eyes. Then it was gone. She said quietly, the way he loved my mother. If that's what love looks like, I don't want any part of it. Oscar wanted to ask more, wanted to know what she meant. But her mood had already changed. And the customer just walked in. The moment passed. But Oscar couldn't shake it. He was a busy man, government contractor. His schedule was always full. And yet here he was, day after day, finding reasons to be in his tiny shop. Suzan had no idea. No idea that the man sitting in her shop, the one who fixed her machines and bought her lunch, had already fallen for her. No idea that her casual words had just become a challenge he couldn't walk away from.
They lived in the same building, Block 7. Suzan occupied a single room on the first floor. Oscar shared a 3-bedroom apartment on the second floor with 2 other guys. Same staircase, same compound, same route home every evening. That was how it started, walking together after she closed her shop. Just 2 neighbors heading to the same place. Then Oscar started coming earlier. He found himself spending every free time in Suzan's business center. When the photocopier jammed, he fixed it. When stationery ran low, she would send him money to help her buy more from town. When lunchtime came, he'd say, "You haven't eaten, let's go," and he would pay. Suzan didn't question it. Maybe she thought he was just being nice. Maybe she didn't think about it at all. But Oscar noticed everything. The way she worked hard in the day. He also noticed the nights. "Oscar, don't wait for me," Suzan would say most evenings, not meeting his eyes. "I'm not going home tonight. I'm going somewhere." He would nod, smile, walk to Block 7 alone. Sometimes, from the house, from his window upstairs, he would watch. Different cars, different men, Suzan climbing in without looking back. Each night, something in his chest cracked. Each day, he still came back to her shop anyway. His flatmates thought he was foolish. "She's using you," they said. "She sleeps around. Everybody in Block 7 knows." Oscar didn't argue, because Suzan had said she could never love a man, and Oscar believed she was wrong.
The trouble arrived on a Thursday afternoon, carrying a small bag and a big attitude. Oscar was helping Suzan organize her files when the door opened and a young woman walked in. Same face as Suzan, same eyes, but colder, sharper, like she was already judging everyone in the room. "Suzan," the woman dropped her bag on the counter. "Who is this?" Suzan sighed. "Stephanie, this is Oscar. He lives upstairs in Block 7. He's a friend and he helps around sometimes." "Helps around?" Stephanie's eyes moved slowly over Oscar, measuring him, finding him lacking. Helps around doing what? Oscar smiled and stretched out his hand. I'm Oscar. Your sister is. I know what my sister is. Stephanie ignored his hand. The question is, what are you? The shop went quiet. Suzan stepped between them. Stephanie, stop. He's just a friend. I have told you. Just a friend. Stephanie laughed. A dry sound with no warmth. Men are never just friends, Suzan. You should know that by now. Oscar kept his face calm, but something shifted inside him. This one would not be easy. That evening, as Oscar walked towards Block 7, he heard their voices through Suzanne's window, raised, arguing. What do you know about him? Stephanie asked. He's my neighbor and also a friend. Men like that want something. He's not like that, Suzanne replied. They are all like that. Oscar walked on, but her words followed him up the stairs. They are all like that. He thought about Suzanne's words from weeks ago. I can never fall in love with a man. Now he understood. It wasn't just Suzanne who believed it. It ran in the family.
If this story is touching your heart, please take a second to subscribe. Your support truly means the world and helps us bring you more powerful stories.
Stephanie made it her mission to watch Oscar. Every time he came to the shop, she was there, arms folded, eyes narrow, standing like a guard who hadn't decided if he was the enemy or just unwanted. You again, she said on Monday morning. Oscar held up a bag and said, printer ink. She was running low. I could have bought it, Stephanie said, but you didn't. Stephanie's jaw tightened. Oscar placed the ink on the counter and left. That night, Suzan confronted her sister. Why are you so rude to him? He's been nothing but kind to me. Stephanie was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, kindness is how they start. How who starts? Men. Stephanie's voice dropped. Father was kind once too. Remember? Mama always tells the story. How he brought her gifts, how he smiled, how he made her feel special. Suzan said nothing. That was before, Stephanie continued. Before the beatings, before the crying every night, before we learned that a man's kindness is just bait. Suzan turned away, speechless. They are all the same, just waiting for permission to change. Behind the door, hidden in the shadows, Oscar stood very still. He hadn't meant to eavesdrop. He had only come to return Suzanne's phone cable he borrowed in the shop. But now he stood there, heart pounding, hearing truths that weren't meant for his ears. They are all the same. He walked back up to his apartment without knocking. Upstairs, he sat on his bed and stared at the wall for a long time. Maybe they were right. Maybe he was a fool. But the following day, he went back to her shop anyway.
2 weeks passed. Stephanie showed no signs of leaving. She helped in the shop. She cooked for Suzanne. She also made sure Oscar never had a moment alone with her sister. But Oscar noticed something. Stephanie watched him too. Not with suspicion anymore. Something else. Something he couldn't name. Then one evening he found her waiting for him at the bottom of Block 7. Sit down, she said. It wasn't a request. Oscar sat on the bench near the staircase. Stephanie stood over him, arms folded. I know what you are doing, she said. What am I doing? Trying to get close to my sister. Trying to make her trust you. Stephanie's voice was low. I am here to tell you to stop. Why? Because she's been through enough. Stephanie's eyes flickered, just for a second. We both have. Oscar looked at her carefully. I'm not your father. You're a man. That's enough. Silence stretched between them. Then Stephanie did something unexpected. She sat beside him. My sister doesn't know everything, she said quietly. About me, about what I saw, what I remember. Oscar waited. I was older than her when it started. I remember more. Stephanie's voice cracked slightly. I remember Mama on the floor. I remember his foot connecting with her ribs. I remember the sound. Oscar said nothing. I also remember promising myself one thing. Stephanie turned to look at him. No man would ever have that power over me. And I made sure Suzanne felt the same. Is that why you push everyone away? Stephanie stood. That's why I'm warning you. Walk away now, Oscar, before you hurt her, before you become just like the rest. She walked towards Suzanne's apartment, then stopped. Because if you break her, she said without turning around, you'll have to deal with me.
Oscar sat alone in the darkness for a long time. He thought about walking away. He thought about it all night.
The eviction notice came on a Tuesday. Oscar was in his apartment when he heard the commotion downstairs. Voices raised, Suzanne's voice, then Stephanie's. He went down. A man in a white shirt stood at Suzanne's door, holding papers. New owner. Everyone must go. You have 3 months. Suzanne's face had gone pale. But my rent? Your rent expires in 2 months. That gives you 1 month after to pack your things and leave. The man walked away. Suzanne stood frozen. Stephanie held her arm, but Stephanie looked scared too. Oscar approached slowly. Suzanne? She didn't answer. Didn't seem to hear him. That evening, he learned why. The COVID lockdown had eaten everything. 6 months at home, no business, no money. She had spent her savings feeding herself and sending food to their mother. There was nothing left. Where will I go? Suzanne whispered that night, sitting on the floor of her room. Stephanie was asleep on the bed beside her. Where will I go? Oscar, that night, thought of Suzanne. He wanted to say, "Come to me. I'll protect you. I'll find a way." But he knew she wouldn't accept. Not from him, not from any man. So he said nothing. He started making calls, looking for a place, looking for money, looking for anything that could help. Because in 3 months, the woman he loved might be on the street. And he would rather die than let that happen.
Weeks passed. The countdown began. Suzanne worked longer hours trying to save. Stephanie helped where she could, but money came slowly, too slowly. Oscar watched from his window every night. The cars still came, the men still came. Suzanne still climbed in without looking back. But now he understood. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was desperate. She's doing what she has to do, he told Philip, one of the flatmates, one night. She's sleeping with men for money, Oscar. Call it what it is. Oscar said nothing. His own situation was different because he just renewed his rent before the selling of the building. The old landlord had refunded his rent in full. He had found a nice place on the other side of town, modern, safe. He could move any time, but he didn't, because Suzanne couldn't. One evening, Stephanie found him sitting on the stairs. "You're still here," she said. "I live here." "No, you lived here. Your rent is refunded. You could leave tomorrow, but you're still here." Oscar didn't answer. Stephanie sat 2 steps below him. When she spoke, her voice was different, softer. "I don't understand you," she admitted. "What's to understand? You see what she does. You know where she goes at night. And still," Stephanie shook her head. "What kind of man are you?" Oscar looked at her. The kind who sees more than what she does at night. Stephanie studied him for a long moment. Then she said something that shocked them both. "I almost hope you're real." She stood quickly and walked away before he could respond. Oscar sat on the stairs, confused. "Almost hope you're real." What did that mean?
The day came. Suzanne's notice expired. She had found nowhere to go. "I'll stay with a friend, and Stephanie is going back to her base," she told Oscar, not meeting his eyes, "just until I sort myself out." Oscar wanted to argue, wanted to offer his new place, but he knew she wouldn't accept. So he helped her pack her things into a taxi, watched her drive away with Stephanie beside her. The first week, she called him twice, short calls. "I'm fine, settling in, don't worry." The second week, the calls stopped. Oscar started calling her. She didn't pick up. He called Stephanie. "She's fine, I spoke with her yesterday," Stephanie said, but her voice was strange, careful. "What's going on?" A long pause, then Stephanie lowered her voice. "The friend she's staying with, it's not good. The lady treats her like a servant, curfews, rules, complaints about everything." Oscar's grip tightened on the phone. "Where is this place?" "Somewhere in Guarempa."
I will try and go and see her. He hung up before she could argue. That Sunday morning, his phone rang at 6 a.m. Suzan's number. Oscar. Her voice was broken, tired, defeated. I don't know where to go. What happened? A pause, then quietly. She threw my things out, put my bag on the stairs, said I was bringing bad energy to her home. Oscar was already moving, grabbing his keys. Send me the address. Don't move. I'm coming. He found her sitting on the steps of an unfamiliar building, her bag beside her, her face wet with tears she couldn't hide anymore. For the first time, she looked up at him without pretending to be strong. Oscar, I'm sorry. I didn't know who else to call. He picked up her bag. You're coming with me.
Suzan didn't speak during the Uber ride. She sat in the back, staring out the window, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Oscar sat by her, close enough to feel the tension radiating from her body. When they stopped in front of his new place, she finally looked at him. Where are we? My new apartment. I moved last month. Suzan blinked. You moved? Then why were you still at Block 7 every day? Oscar didn't answer. He just carried her bag inside. The apartment was modest but clean. 2 bedrooms, a small living room, a kitchen that actually worked. Suzan stood in the middle of it, looking lost. Oscar, I can't stay here. Why not? Because, she struggled for words, because this is your place, because I'm not your responsibility, because you have nowhere else to go. She fell silent. Oscar placed her bag on the floor. You can stay as long as you need. The spare room is yours. No conditions, no expectations. Suzan stared at him. Why? He wanted to say it. Because I love you. Because I've always loved you. Because watching you struggling is killing me. Instead, he said, because you needed help. And I could give it. That night, Oscar sat in his room, listening to the silence from across the hall. Suzan was here, under his roof. Finally safe. But safe from what? Around midnight, he heard her door open. Soft footsteps. The bathroom door clicked shut, then opened again, then silence. He didn't sleep. Neither did she. In the morning, he would make her breakfast. He would act normal. He would pretend his heart wasn't pounding every time she walked past. But tonight, lying in the darkness, Oscar allowed himself one thought. She's here. And then another. But for how long? Days passed. A rhythm formed. Suzan woke early, went to her shop, worked all day. Oscar went to his meetings, handled his contracts, and somehow always ended up at her shop by afternoon. At night, they walked home together, to the same place, his place. Stephanie had returned to school, but she called every evening. Oscar would hear Suzan on the phone, her voice low. He's been kind, Stephanie, very kind. A pause. No, nothing like that. He sleeps in his room, I sleep in mine. Another pause. I know what you're thinking, but he's not like that. Oscar would walk away, pretending he hadn't heard. But the nights remained hard. Some evenings, Suzan would tell him she was going out. I won't be late, she'd say, not meeting his eyes. And Oscar would nod and watch from the window and see the cars come. His friends called him a fool. She's still doing it, Oscar, even under your roof. She's scared, Oscar replied. She's trying to survive. At some point, you have to stop making excuses for her. Maybe they were right. Maybe he was blind. And one night, something shifted. She came home early, before 9 p.m. Oscar was in the living room, reading. The door opened. Suzan walked in, dropped her bag, and sat on the floor beside his chair. I didn't go anywhere tonight, she said quietly. Oscar lowered his paper. Okay. I sat in the park near the shop. Just sat there, thinking. About what? Suzan was quiet for a long moment. About why you haven't asked me to leave. Oscar put down his paper. Is that what you think? That I want you to leave? Suzan hugged her knees to her chest. I don't know what to think, Oscar. You've done nothing but help me. You've given me a place to stay.
You buy me food, you fix my machines, you're always there. Is that a bad thing? She looked up at him. Her eyes were tired, vulnerable, different. I don't understand why. Oscar's heart hammered. This was the moment. He could tell her everything. All the feelings he'd carried for months, all the nights he'd watched her live with other men and died inside. But something held him back. You don't have to understand, he said gently. You just have to accept it. Suzan stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She moved from the floor to the couch beside him, close enough that he could smell her perfume, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Everyone in my life has wanted something from me, she whispered. My father wanted me to be quiet about what he did to my mother. The men I see, they want what I can give them. Even Stephanie wants me to be as afraid as she is. She turned to face him. What do you want, Oscar? The question hung between them. Oscar could feel his pulse in his throat. One word, that's all it would take. You, I want you. But he saw the fear beneath her question, the way she was bracing herself, waiting for him to become like all the rest. So he said something else. I want you to sleep well tonight, in a safe place, with nothing to fear. Suzan blinked. That's it. For now. She didn't move, didn't speak, just looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. Then quietly, You're a strange man, Oscar, I've been told. She almost smiled. Almost. And when she finally stood and walked to her room, she paused at the door. Good night, Oscar. Good night, Suzan. He heard her door close. And for the first time in months, he fell asleep without pain in his chest. The next morning, Oscar woke with a plan. He had watched Suzan for months. He had seen her sad, tired, broken, desperate. But last night, he had seen something else. A crack. Just a small one, in the wall she had built around herself. Today, he would try to make it bigger. He left early, telling Suzan he had meetings. Instead, he went to the bank, then to a shop in the city, then to a restaurant he'd been saving for a special occasion. His phone buzzed. Suzan. You didn't come to the shop today. I'm busy. I'll see you tonight. A pause. Okay. That evening, he picked her up at the shop. She was locking up, surprised to see him. No walk home today. Not yet. First, we're going somewhere. Suzan frowned. Where? It's a surprise. She hesitated. Oscar saw the suspicion in her eyes, the old reflex, the one that expected danger disguised as kindness. But then something shifted. She nodded. Okay. In the Uber, she was quiet, watching the city pass. When they stopped at the restaurant, the one inside Abuja's most beautiful garden, her eyes widened. Oscar, what is this? He just smiled. Come on. She followed him inside, still confused, still cautious. But when they sat down, and the waiter brought menus, and the soft lights flickered around them, Suzan's face changed. For one moment, she looked like a woman who had forgotten how to be afraid. Oscar held on to that look. He would need it later. Suzan wore a simple dress. She hadn't come prepared for anywhere fancy. But in the soft light of the restaurant, she looked beautiful anyway. Oscar couldn't stop looking at her. Halfway through the meal, Suzan put down her fork. Why are you doing this? The question came softly. No accusation, just genuine confusion. Oscar set down his own fork. Doing what? This, all of it. The months of helping, the place to stay, now this dinner. She searched his face. What do you really want from me? Oscar was quiet for a moment. He could feel the weight of the question, the importance of his answer. I want to ask you something, he said instead, and I want you to answer honestly. Suzan nodded slowly. Oscar leaned forward. When everything is quiet, when the day is over, when you are alone with yourself, what do you really feel? The question landed like a stone in still water. Suzan's face went still. Her hands, which had been relaxed on the table, slowly curled into fists. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, so quietly he almost didn't hear. Empty. Oscar waited. Like nothing really lasts, she continued. Like everything good is just waiting to end. I don't trust anything anymore, especially love. Why? Suzan looked away. Her eyes glistened. Because I look at you,
she whispered, "and I see you trying to love me, but all I can see is my father and my mother." She turned her face further, fighting tears she didn't want him to see. And then she began to talk, about a night when she was 8, about sounds she should never have heard, about a mother on the floor and a father standing over her, about being told this is just how marriage is sometimes. She talked for a long time. Oscar didn't interrupt, didn't move, just listened. When she finished, tears were streaming down her face. "Now you know," she said. "Now you understand why I am the way I am." Oscar reached across the table and took her hand. "Thank you for telling me."
They finished their meal in silence. Not an uncomfortable silence, the kind that comes after something heavy has been lifted. Oscar paid the bill. Suzan watched him, still wiping her eyes when she thought he wasn't looking. "Can we walk?" she asked, "before we go home?" Oscar nodded. The restaurant was inside a garden. Pathways wound between flowers and trees, lit by soft ground lights. They walked slowly, not touching, but close. Then Suzan stopped. "Oscar," he turned. "What you asked me, about what I feel when I'm alone." She swallowed. "I want to ask you something now." "Okay." "If someone loved me," she said slowly, "in a way that felt safe, patient, real, would I even know how to receive it, or would I push it away?" Oscar looked at her, really looked. "That's not the question you want to ask." She blinked. "The question you want to ask," he continued gently, "is whether anyone could ever love you like that, after everything you've done, everything you've been." Suzanne's breath caught. Oscar stepped closer. "You don't get to decide what I'm capable of feeling for you. I've seen your past. I've seen your nights. I've seen you climb into cars with other men and felt my heart break every single time." Her eyes widened. "And still," he said, "I'm here. Not because you're perfect, not because you're clean, but because you're you. Because I see more than what you do at night. I see who you are when you're not trying to survive." Suzanne couldn't speak. "So here's my question," Oscar said softly. "If I loved you, really loved you, with no conditions, no expiration date, would you let yourself feel it, or would you run?" The garden was silent. Suzanne stared at him, tears fresh on her cheeks. "I don't know how," she whispered. "I don't know if I remember how." "That's not what I asked." She looked down at her hands, then up at him. And for the first time, something in her eyes changed. The wall, the defense, the years of protection. It cracked. "I think," she started, then stopped. Started again. "I think if someone really meant it, if they didn't give up on me." She couldn't finish. Oscar didn't push. He just reached for her hand.
They left that spot and walked deeper into the garden. Neither spoke. There was too much to say, and somehow no words felt big enough. Then Oscar stopped. "See, over there." Suzanne followed his gaze. A wooden swing sat under a large tree, bathed in soft light from a nearby lamp. Suzanne's face changed. "A swing," she breathed. And then, before Oscar could react, she ran. She ran to the swing like a child, sat on it, grabbed the ropes, looked back at him with an expression he had never seen on her face before. Pure, unguarded, joy. "Push me," she called. Oscar walked over slowly, smiling despite himself. He stood behind her and pushed gently. The swing rose, fell, rose again. Suzanne laughed, a real laugh, the kind that comes from somewhere deep. Oscar pushed again, slower this time. Oscar slowed the swing gently until it came to a stop. Suzanne didn't get off. She just sat there, her fingers still wrapped around the ropes, her mind louder than the night around them. "Oscar," she said again, softer this time. He moved to stand in front of her. "I don't know how to love you," she admitted. There was no pride in her voice now, no defense, just truth. Oscar smiled, not the kind that expects something back, but the kind that understands. "Then don't." She frowned slightly. "Don't? Don't try to love me the way you think you're supposed to.
he continued. Don't force it, don't perform it, don't fake it.
He crouched low so his eyes met hers. Just stop running when it starts to feel real. The words landed somewhere deep inside her. Not like pain, not like fear, but like something breaking open. Something that had been sealed shut for years. She couldn't speak. She didn't need to. They walked back through the garden in silence. Past the flowers, past the soft lights, past the couple still laughing over wine. The ride home was different that night. No calls, no waiting cars, no excuses, no lies about visiting friends. Just silence. And something unfamiliar sitting between them. Peace. Suzan stared out the window, watching Abuja's lights pass past. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, her mind was quiet. No plans for escape, no calculations, no survival mode. Just quiet.
Days passed, then weeks. Suzan woke each morning in Oscar's spare room and waited for the other shoe to drop, for his kindness to run out, for him to become like all the rest. It never happened. Oscar didn't ask questions about where she'd been. He didn't monitor her movements. He didn't try to save her or fix her or change her. He just stayed, consistent, present, unshaken. And slowly, without noticing, Suzan began to change. Not in big ways, not in ways anyone else would see, but in small things. She started leaving her door slightly open at night instead of locked. She made tea for 2 in the mornings without being asked. She laughed, really laughed at something stupid he said. Then one evening, a car pulled up outside her shop. Suzan's phone rang. She looked at the screen and ignored it. Then a text message followed. She read it, looked outside and saw the car, familiar, waiting. Her body moved on autopilot. She stood, grabbed her bag, took 1 step toward the door, then stopped. She looked at the car again, looked at her phone, thought about the money, thought about the habit, thought about the survival instinct that had kept her alive for years. Then she thought about Oscar. Not what he would say, not what he would think, just his face, his patience, his ridiculous, stubborn belief in her. Suzan put down her bag, locked her shop, and walked past the waiting car. Upstairs, Oscar was in the kitchen struggling with a pot that had clearly seen better days. He looked up, surprised to see her so early. Suzan leaned against the doorframe and watched him for a moment. This man, who had seen everything and still chose her. "Oscar," she called. He turned. I didn't go." He didn't react immediately, just nodded slowly. "Okay. I wanted to," she added honestly. "Out of habit." He nodded again. "But I didn't." This time, Oscar looked at her fully. Not surprised. Not overly excited. Just present. "I know," he said simply. That night, for the first time, Suzan stayed. Not because she had nowhere else to go, but because she wanted to.
It wasn't sudden. There were still days Suzan pulled away. Still moments she questioned everything. Still nights her past whispered louder than Oscar's presence. Healing, she learned, wasn't a straight line. But something had shifted. She was no longer running from love. She was learning how to stand still inside it. Weeks later, on a quiet Sunday evening, they found themselves back at the garden. No fancy dinner this time. No heavy conversations waiting to happen. Just 2 people, walking slowly through the same paths, breathing the same quiet air. They ended up at the swing. Suzan sat first. Oscar sat beside her this time, not behind, not pushing, just beside. The swing creaked gently under their weight. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Suzan rested her head lightly against Oscar's shoulder. A small gesture, simple, quiet, but for her, it meant everything. "I think," she began slowly, "I'm starting to understand what you meant." Oscar didn't move.
that love isn't supposed to feel like something is about to break. He smiled softly. She took a breath. And I'm still scared. I know. But her voice dropped to almost a whisper. I'm not running anymore. Oscar reached for her hand, not to hold it tightly, not to claim anything, just to be there. And this time, she didn't pull away. The evening deepened around them. Lights flickered on in the garden. Somewhere in the distance, music played softly. And on that autumn swing, under the Abuja sky, a woman who had spent her whole life expecting love to hurt, finally let herself rest. Not because she was fixed, not because she was whole, but because she had found someone who didn't need her to be either. Someone who simply stayed. For the first time in her life, love didn't feel like a trap she had to escape. It felt like a place she could finally rest.
If this story is touching your heart, please take a second to subscribe. Your support truly means the world and helps us bring you more powerful stories.